And we are recording Mr. L.A. Marzulli on Tuesday, October 29th, 2024 at 12:19 p.m. Eastern time. And as I slowly, fully lean into becoming an old man, the most exciting topic of conversation is that someone else also doesn't feel good. And you need a cane. I'm like, I don't feel good too. You've been on here once before. If you guys go in the link in the description, go to the description, you can find the links to everything, including the newest books, Rungs of Disclosure. But Mr. Marzulli, please introduce yourself, sir. And there's the book. Yes, sir. And it's also in the description.
Well, thank you, Tommy. Great to be here. I'm Elliot Marzulli. I've written 14 books, produced, directed, hosted 30 films. So we're actually, my business partner and I, Gil Zimmerman, are working on film number 31, which is on the Shroud of Turin. And you can see the head of Jesus right there in the background. And we also connected with the Holy Fire. So it's sort of a very unique film. No one's put these two together, but we have. And I think you'll find it interesting.
What is the Holy Fire?
Well, now that you asked, okay. We know that we know where Calvary was and the tomb of Jesus was. How do we know this? Because when the Bar Kokhba revolt happened, AD 125. So let's back up. AD 70, or let's back up even further. Jesus is crucified around AD 33, 32, depending on who you talk to. The Romans come in AD 70 and completely raze the city. They destroy the temple. They kill 1 million inhabitants. It's a mess. Most of the Jews are carted off. It's an absolute disaster. Now, fast forward to 125, the Karbachba, Bar Kokhba revolution. Yeah, you can see I'm all stuffed up. The Bar
Both
Kokhba
are.
revolt. Yeah, and the Romans come down at this point, and they've had it up to here. We're not playing this game anymore. They basically say no more Jews are allowed ever in Jerusalem, and they build the temple of Venus over the crucifixion slash burial site. That's where the tomb of Venus is. And then they build the temple, and then they build the temple of Jupiter on top of the Temple Mount. Now, fast forward to the year, basically the 4th century, 300, 310. Constantine's emperor Helena, the mother, goes down and is asking the locals, well, where's the crucifixion site? And they all say, right under the Temple of Venus. So Helena goes down and they completely deconstruct the Temple of Venus. They find Golgotha. They find the tomb. Here's where the Holy Fire comes in. So basically, the fire, according to some written accounts dating of the 1st century, a guy in Syria heard that Peter saw the fire at the tomb. The fire appears one day a year, and it usually appears, well, it always appears the Saturday right before Resurrection Sunday. And so this has been going on for like 1700 years. People have seen it, it's been documented, but here in the West, it's been cut off because the Greek Orthodox are in charge of the tomb of the Holy Sepulchre. I've never been there. I passed on it when I was in Jerusalem. I said, well, why do I want to go there? And that was stupid of me, knowing what I know now. So you've got this unbroken trail of 1700 years where people have seen the fire appear over the tomb, on the tomb, for 1700 years. And a lot of times they would hang the lights with wicks, and the lights would just spontaneously combust. The lights would just light up by themselves. And one account is the Muslim caliph was really ticked off because all these people were converting to Christianity. So he ordered all the cotton wicks, linen wicks, to be pulled out of the lamps, and lead wicks, which of course lead doesn't burn, to be put in the lamps. Well, the Holy Fire came down, lit all the lamps up anyway. He did this 3 times. Finally, he just gave up and said, whatever this is the real deal. So it still goes on today. It's mass pandemonium. It's worse than a football game. And human beings, look, some guy makes a touchdown, right? Everybody yells and screams and popcorns goes flying and the guy's hot dog, hits the guy behind him in the face, and on it goes. I mean, human beings, we react this way to anything. It's like the needle goes from, this is really quiet and I'm ready to go to sleep, to whoop, all the way over. football, basketball, I mean, anything. Human beings are what we are. So the holy fire is no different. It's not reverential. It's not this whole, it should be, in my opinion. People should be in, and sometimes they are. There's been accounts where the fire didn't appear. And so people would just sing these hymns and all of a sudden the fire would appear. So there's this building in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre called the Edicule. Inside the Edicule is the slab where the body of Jesus lay. And what according to accounts, what we have now, the Patriarch of Jerusalem goes in, says a series of prayers, and waits. And then this undulating blue light appears over the slab. It's almost like water. It's kind of undulating. And it turns into a pillar, and the priest lights his candles and goes out, and people light up their candles with his candles. Here's the kicker. The fire will not burn for about 15 minutes. We show this in the film. It doesn't burn. Doesn't burn.
You mean doesn't burn other thing? I mean, like the flame is burning, but it doesn't like a piece of paper or like a pine cone or something.
There's a man, his name is Giulio Fanti. And Giulio Fanti's been in the news recently with the Shroud of Turin because the two are connected. He's the one that looked at the linen and said, this is a first century weave and it's nothing to do with 15th, a forgery or any of this nonsense. So Fanti is at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre a few years ago. He does an experiment. He has 2 pieces of linen and a candle beneath each piece of linen. This candle, so he gets the holy fire. This candle he lights with a cigarette lighter, burns right through the linen. This candle he lights with the holy fire. It doesn't burn the linen. So here's the candle, here's the linen. It doesn't burn the linen. It just scorches the linen. And the whole point is this, that the image on the shroud looks like it's a scorched image. It's not a burn. It's like a scorched image. And so we're starting to wonder whether the holy fire is what's responsible for the resurrection and creating the image on the shroud. Conjecture, but that's why we do in the film. We got a lot of experts that weigh in on it. Pretty fascinating.
And I probably should know this, having gone to Catholic school for 12 years. What exactly is the Shroud of Turin? I mean, I know it, I know of it, and I know it's been in the news recently.
Fine. Of course, every time I go looking for something, it's never there.
Well, of course.
Should be right there, but it's not. It's in my other. Let me just make sure I don't have it on the desk. I don't think I do.
You can go look for it. I don't care. I'll fill the air.
Okay, cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Lay my hands on it in about a second.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, no. So I mean, I've always known what the Shroud of Turin is. I mean, I know there's handfuls of different miracles and things, and I guess miraculous sights. And I remember learning about Padre Pio when I was younger, and I see like the holes in his hands, and what was it? You could be in 2 places at once. I know of the Shroud of Turin. I don't. I admittedly don't know. We're gonna go out on a guess and say it was probably linen laid over the body of Christ. And then that's probably what it is. And I know it's been in the news recently because they did like an AI reconstruction of the imprint and thus the thing that had to have caused the imprint. So like seeing a bullet hole and then being like, well, this is the bullet that had to have created it, most likely fired from, XYZ at a altitude or, gun or muzzle velocity of blah blah blah. So I know that much, but I don't know more of it. I do remember my senior year of high school, Father Lopez always teaching us about this. I think there's another one. Is there like I think there's like a miraculous like blood stain on something that like when analyzed it still doesn't have like coagulation factors in it or something. Like the same factors that if you cut your thumb or something, it would start clotting immediately. Um, but I do remember that, and I don't entirely remember what this is. He's back.
Okay. So the Shroud of Turin looks like this.
There we go.
This is the shroud.
Okay.
This is what it looks like when you're standing about 6 feet away. You can clearly see it's an image of a man. Now,
Yeah, laying down hands on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Roll back to 1898. Secunda Pia, who's a photographer, is taking a photograph of this. the shroud is being displayed for one of the times. And so Secunda Pia is the first photographer to take a picture of this thing. So he's in the dark room and he's developing the film. And what he sees is absolutely astounding because he's doing the plate. He's developing the plate of the and that plate is the face. And this is what he sees.
Mm.
And so the shroud is a negative image. And when you photograph it, you get a positive image. And you can see it's a crucified man who's been brutally scourged. I mean, the scourging
That's yeah.
is just horrific, absolutely horrific. There are over 700 puncture marks on the body. I mean, no, you don't come back from that. I mean, you just don't come back from that. And then look at the nail prints. It's in the wrist,
Yeah.
so it goes through it's in the palm, but it's at an angle like this. And so
Jeez.
they would take the hand and squeeze it, and then put the nail here at an angle, and it comes in the back of the wrist like right here. Because if it's in the palms, it won't
It'll
hold,
it'll rip your through it
but
through your
when it's
hand.
at an angle, it does. And so you'll look at the scourging. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Look at the flow of blood from the arms. This is not a 15th century forgery. That's a 3-hour discussion. I've been a student of the shroud for 44 years, so uh, it's amazing to see the connection between the Holy Fire and the Shroud of Turin, and that's what the new film's about. It should be out before Christmas. We're in post production, and my business partner Gil Zimmerman has been feverishly working on it.
So the shroud then you're correlating between the burning imprint as opposed to the actual combustion of the I guess the substance or the target of the flame for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
It's like the singeing of it, and you're saying that's what the shroud again relating the two to being a holy fire or yeah.
pretty miraculous, pretty amazing.
And what was it when it came when the Shroud of Turin was making the rounds a couple months ago? Was like it was they had used AI or something to reverse imprint the face, and what was that?
They took the image of the shroud and they used AI to create what it would look like.
What the imprint would have
And,
been?
and in my opinion, they absolutely nailed it. They totally, that's him. I mean, that's what he looks like. And isn't it interesting that after 2,000 years, all this is coming out, right?
I was just about to say it's
Just what a coinkydink, right?
what a coinky dink.
Yeah, there
Oh,
are no coincidences, and that's why it's coming out. I honestly, look, I'm a student of the biblical prophetic narrative, and I believe that when you look at what's going on with Israel and the Middle East in particular, this all dovetails together. People, and you said you were raised Catholic for 12 years, so you probably know nothing about this, with all due respect, but Catholics are what they call amillennial. They do not believe in a literal 1,000-year millennial reign of Jesus. And yet, biblical prophetic narrative all through that talks about his second coming, his return, and how he rules from Jerusalem for 1,000 years.
hmm.
It's a literal 1,000-year millennium where he brings heaven to earth. It's a deep, deep study, but that's what he does. And it says he will rule the nations with a rod of iron. I mean, he will rule the nations with a rod of iron. That's not metaphor. So I think he's coming back soon.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, it is there is a like what slowly through this podcast, kind of coming back to Christ, growing up, conservative Christian Catholic, and then doing the whole atheist arc, which I'm pretty sure everyone in my generation did at some point. You don't not do it. You have the internet, you're 15, you're edgy, it all combines to just, reject whatever.
yeah,
And then slowly coming back, and you do get at a point where it's just you either feel God in your life or you see things that you can't explain, or it's just you just know it. You just know it like you just know it. You just know it like a rock that it's there. Um, but I've always kind of pointed out, the upside because I have to find positivity and optimism because otherwise I'll go crazy. It's my own survival mechanism. But I've said, like, the upside to everything we've seen really since I've started this podcast, so December 2019 till now, they're seeing like unimaginable horrors. The release of a bioweapon, a vaccine that injures, wars in Ukraine and Israel, and hopefully not, but China, Taiwan, and human trafficking, Epstein Island, the P. Diddy, Ghislaine Maxwell, the Sound of Freedom. You're seeing all these things, and it's just undeniable evil. Not an un not an unhappy truth about reality, right? Like that there are wars. Yeah, it's not a perfect world. I own a gun. I hope I don't have to use it, but I own one. Like not that. That's different. That's the maturation process of realizing that it's you know it's not everyone gets food and water. It's a bad thing, and that's just where we are. Hopefully one day we will. Not that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about explicit, intentional, consciously planned, executed, and covered up evil.
Yeah.
And the upside to that is if you see that evil, I think at least it implies the good on the other end simply by the implications of up and down. You and I are both, right? We don't feel good. We have sinuses. But what does that imply? That implies that there is a mode of life we live where we don't have full sinus. If everyone in the world always had full sinuses, it wouldn't be a topic of conversation. It would just be, we don't talk about, hey, I'm hearing things today. And you're like, I'm hearing things too. No, because we all have hearing. So my point is seeing all these just the true, unfiltered, unbridled, pure evil implies the good. And, you know, it's not it's not great that it seems like, all of the evil's coming to a head. But if it is, that also implies that the good is coming to a head. So it is a very odd time of like, you don't want to be here for the evil, but at the same time, you're like, this might be the price of admission to also seeing the good. Is you got to go through the anxiety inducing, are the satanic pedophiles going to start a thermonuclear war? Like, I don't want to be here for that. But, you know, it's like what Ronnie Coleman weightlifter. Everybody wants to be a weightlifter. Ain't nobody want to lift the weights. Right? It's the same thing. Everybody wants to see Jesus return. It's like, yeah, not everybody wants to be here for the preamble, if you will.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
to what you're saying, yeah, no quinky dinks. No, I believe that. This might be the price of admission. I don't really know where I was going with that, but yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's we are living in unprecedented times. And when you look at what AI is capable of doing, you mentioned the whole thing with Jesus. Can I share my screen? Can I
Yeah,
show
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. Hold on, let me.
Let's see if I have this here. Hold on. Give me a segundo. Yeah, it's going to take a second
No, you're good.
to download, and I'll show you in a second once it's downloading. Um, the bottom line is with AI, we've and the analogy I use is like in 1945 when we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was a line of demarcation. That was a line in the sand. That took us into the nuclear age.
Hmm.
That was an unprecedented event in all of human history. Now, people will say, well, this happened, Mohenjo-daro over in India, Pakistan, thousands and thousands of years ago, possibly. It happened on Mars. Some people will say there was a
Hmm.
thermonuclear war on the planet Mars. We don't know.
Yeah,
There are people who have written about this, and again, it's something that I put on the back burner because I don't have enough information.
sure.
But what I do know, what I don't need to put on the back burner, is that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were two very real events.
Yeah,
We know that thousands of people were just evaporated instantly, and so that brought us into the nuclear age. Well, that's a line of demarcation that humanity has never crossed collectively. Well, that happened in 45. Now with AI, and this is where it becomes, really, really bizarre because we no longer can tell fiction and fabrication from reality. You can't. And when you hear these reports, it's maybe once every couple of weeks where some guy's in high school and he takes a picture of some girl in high school. Next thing you know, she's all over social media, and she's naked in very compromising positions. And that's not her.
Hmm.
That's AI generated. But her reputation, how do you backpedal from that? How do
Yeah.
you even defend yourself? How do you say, no, that wasn't me? Well, yes, it was, because here you are. How do you even deal with it? And the fact that this can happen, I mean, another example would be, someone could create an AI of me, and my webmaster, not with my face, but he created another guy, roughly the same age, and you know, basically said, I'm L.A. Marzulli. Well, that guy wasn't L.A. Marzulli. The point I'm trying to make is that someone could take my image or your image or anybody's image and and create the most heinous, obscene things you could possibly imagine. How does anyone defend against that? How does anyone defend it? You can't. You can't. So I'm going to show you guys something here, and it's coming up in just a second.
Hmm.
And I'll share my screen, and you guys just can watch it. So here we go. So let me go here and share. And go here. Boom. So I'm gonna show you this right now.
Hmm.
Here's my application.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in that place right now where you want to turn your life around, and somewhere deep in your soul there could be some decisions that you have to make, like it's like something was decided for you, and instead of trying to make something that is done work, it's like the invitation is to make the decision, commit to that, and to start creating what comes next. But here's the thing: when
Not
we
real.
say no to something, we're saying yes to something else.
You stop sharing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
what you just saw, was 110% AI generated. It's
Yeah, I
not
can
real.
see the corners of the mouth. But that
I
was
know.
it. That was one of the better
That's
ones
what
I've seen.
one of the better ones. That's almost a year old,
Oh,
right? That's almost a year old.
I was about to say, is this the new stuff? No.
No, this is almost, so who knows?
And it's
You know,
and by the way, that's the declassified stuff. You don't think there's real value in maybe having another world leader come out and say we're nuking Israel?
well, everything, the whole end time prophetic calendar hinges around the nation of Israel. Everything. It's a prelude to what's called the time of Jacob's trouble. But with AI, and I mean, you could, for those of you, people like yourself who are savvy, you looked at the mouth. But when I show this at conferences, most people are just looking at this thing going, why is LA showing us this?
But also in defense of them, I by the virtue of the fact that we're doing a podcast and
Right,
you're sharing I already know by the power of suggestion that there's
right,
importance to you to right. And if
right.
right off the bat it's not something like, hey, this is breaking news as of yesterday, but it's just a person talking, I'm immediately going, why is he showing this to me? What's up with it? So
Yeah,
to someone that,
you're already
yeah,
2 steps ahead of it
if you
because
just
I
had,
sort of
yeah,
led you.
if you just
If
had that video up on, I don't know, on Twitter, and it's just like, my cousin just watched the Trump Rogan interview, and she's in, and you just had her being like, yeah, I've always been a liberal. I wouldn't in a millisecond. Or if you just had someone being like, yeah, no, the hurricane relief here in North Carolina is really, if it was just inserted, I don't think I would have.
Yeah,
But
most people don't. I mean, I didn't either. The first time I watched it, I went, "What?" The bottom line is that's almost a year old, and knowledge we know increases exponentially. You're at the point where you can't tell anymore, and this is very troublesome. People say, "Well, why do you care about that, LA?" Because if you don't know what truth is, then you don't know what truth is. If an average Joe on the street can't tell what he's looking at is real or fabricated, how can you possibly be accountable? How can anyone do anything? And this is where we are, because the media can generate anything it wants to. And we've seen some AI generated pictures allegedly from Harris's campaign, where all these people were filled in at the airport. And you look at that and go, I'm not buying that. She can't get 200 people to a rally, for crying out loud. And, are they going to, I'm hopping all over the place, but, in some ways, how do we even know whether the last election was fair, let alone this election? And already there's all sorts of irregularities coming out.
mhm.
Ballots are being changed. How does the guy on the street defend against this? I mean, how do you defend against the juggernaut of the federal government? If they come after you, they crush you like a worm. Look what they did to Steve Bannon.
Hmm.
You know, he tried to appeal, tried to do everything. Look what they did to Rudy Giuliani. Look what they did to President Trump, and it goes on and on and on. So this is why most people are not most, some people, many people are afraid of their own government for the first time. I'm afraid of my own government for the first time in my 73 years on this planet. I'm terrified of them because who knows what these guys are going to do. The whole thing with Fauci and the lockdowns and all this other stuff, and now we wait a minute. We didn't really need 2 weeks to stop the curve and stop the spread and all this nonsense. And no, 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 no. It wasn't about that at all. And the media, and when this thing came out, if you recall, the media was trying to tell us it's all from the Wuhan lab. No, it's all from the Wuhan wet market. And they're showing pictures of the wet market and all these dark carcasses, and the virus jumped from the bat to this. They're showing it. They're telling us this is how this disease started. Well, I'm looking at the map, and the Wuhan, biolab is 20 miles away. And I went on the record and said, this is classic wag the dog. Classic wag the dog. Look over here. Meanwhile, and then on Tucker Carlson, they had this woman who defected from China who worked at the Wuhan lab and said something that was absolutely chilling. She said two things. She said it was deliberately created and it was deliberately released. Now, people call me a conspiracy theorist. Seriously? Stop putting labels on everybody. It's such a moronic way to have a conversation or to eliminate a conversation or to act like, you're somehow up here and the person that you called is down here. Quit calling people racist and homophobes and xenophobes and conspiracy theorists. Let's just have a conversation. If I'm wrong, then tell me what this woman who defected from China is doing on Tucker Carlson. Is she lying? Is she telling the truth? Has she fabricated some story? Is she a paid shill for Fox News or whoever? What is the truth? Who is she really? I believe she was and is who she said she was.
I think
And
I've had her
that
on here.
information is damning.
I think she's been on here. I don't recall the name. It's Chinese and
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
sound the same to me, but I think she's been on here. Yeah,
yeah,
and yeah,
probably.
yeah. And if the criticism is like, well, she's lying on behalf of I don't know, U.S. intelligence agencies, it's like so we accept then that intelligence agencies have assets that lie for political gain.
Oops.
So then did Wuhan happen or
Can't have it
not?
both ways, can you?
Yeah, well, which what we just said that this, right? It's the people saying like Donald Trump didn't get shot, that was staged, and then there's
Yeah,
like the meme of
unbelievable.
Alex Jones going, "Hey, you might get sued for that."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's which way do you have it? But no, I mean, how do you defend against this? It's as it moves, as again, as a 34-year-old with a biology degree, I also know that I have no idea what I'm talking about. But as seemingly from this, street view, as just a normal civilian, as warfare is moving into everyday life, and I'm sure it has 20 years ago, shut up, I get it. From my view, as it's moving away from artillery or laser guided bombs in war in Iraq or drones in Ukraine or airstrikes in Gaza, as it's moving away from the quote unquote traditional sense of guns, targets, guys in uniforms to, you know, manipulating what I see on my phone to Donald Trump falls amongst loud noises at rally. And I go, huh. And then 10 seconds later, I go and I go, what is this? I go on Twitter and it goes shots at President Trump. And you go, hey, hold on. As the war comes to you, Alex Jones, there's a war on for your mind. But he's right, as it turns into an information war, info wars, you do have to then go, well, how do I defend against this? If that thing was a year old and that's what you and I have access to, what would it absolutely has military applications to have Vladimir Putin come out and say, yeah, I'm backing Donald Trump this year. Even if it goes out and it goes out the morning of the election and it's not debunked till 12 hours later, that absolutely affects the trajectory of the play. If you have Jeff Bezos come out and be like, you know, Amazon's great. I really love it, but my favorite thing about it is just the fact that I keep minorities from having a job. In a moment, that will tank Amazon stock. Now it will be corrected, But if you're a nefarious actor and I don't know, you're shorting Amazon, so it has the reward of power, projection, financial gain. So to bring it all back around, that implies that there is extremely advanced military versions of this, and it is coming back into your very phone. It is in your living room. It is on your computer in your living room. How do you defend against this? I mean, my knee-jerk reaction would be get right with God, but to be more pragmatic, I would say trust what you see and hear right around you. And I know that's not a great answer because you want to be able to interact with the world at large, but you can only see so far and hear so far. But I would say, at the very least, that's what you can do is like verify what you're seeing with your own eyes. Verify what you can hear with your own ears. And understand that doesn't mean don't go and use the internet, but what it does mean is when you go into that, when you log on, know that it could be a hall of mirrors. Don't go in blindly and go, what's
Exactly.
happening today in Texas? Go into it going, I'm in Maine. This is what this is telling me is happening in Texas. So that's what I don't know. Get right with God and understand when you go into the internet, be like, it is a hall of mirrors. And there are people who, if I start to feel anger towards a group of people or support towards a group of people, or think that I should remove or add things on a stock portfolio, there are values and there are conflicts of interest behind that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the right answer. How do you protect yourself against it? I don't know. I have no idea. So
Well, and to your point, I mean, everything that you said was absolutely valid and true. When you're on the internet, realize that, have a filter, at least understand that what you're looking at. I get stuff all the time, and I write people back and go, well, that's interesting, but can you vet it? How do you know? I mean, anybody can say anything on the internet. A great example of that is the goofy picture that's been circulating for about over a year of this this guy in disheveled clothes, long black hair. He's kind of dirty, disheveled, barefoot, and he's up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, about 6 feet tall. Next to him is a 13, 14-foot Sasquatch on a cane, with a knee injury, and they're buddies, and they're just staring at the camera. And when I got it, it was, oh my gosh, this guy found it in his great grandfather's trunk up in the attic, which had been up there for 100 years. Blah 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 blah. It's totally AI,
yeah,
100% AI. But
yeah.
it fools everybody's going, look at this, look at this, and it's at the point now where something comes across my desk. There's one that's been circulating in the last 48 hours. Guys up in some wilderness region of Canada with a game trail camera. All of a sudden, these entities appear in front of it. I sent it to my two business partners, and we all three of us agreed. I didn't tip my hand until they weighed in. It's a fake.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's, is going to get 1 million clicks on this stupid thing, and somebody, just made a fake video. So what else is new? And we see this over and over and over again. This is why anything, unless we really can vet it, it's got to stay on the back burner. You got 2 or 3 witnesses. That's what you need. We have a guy that we're sort of financially sewing into. We raised some money for him. He's in North Carolina. He went in there with a loader and chainsaws and the whole deal. They're clearing up all these trees and trying to open the roads and all this. He sent me probably 30 pictures, and I'll do a sort of a shout out and show all the pictures on one of my shows probably this week. People need to see it. People need to understand, what's really going on down there, and the fact that the feds, for the most part, aren't around. This guy's boots on the ground, so I trust him. I know him. Now he's seeing through a lens this big. Obviously, the destruction is this big. He's seeing only a small part of it, but I trust what he's saying, and that's why it's got to be someone who's there, boots on the ground, and then you can trust it to a certain degree. And even then, the boots on the ground is being colored by his worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what is the truth? There's an ancient prophetic text. I mean, talk about getting right with God. This is from a guy by the name of Isaiah, a prophet, thousands of years ago, and he wrote this: justice is held back, Justice is held back. Righteousness stands far off, far away. Truth is thrown to the street, and honesty cannot come in. It's exactly where we are. I mean, it's exactly where we are. Justice is absolutely held back, and truth is thrown to the street. We don't, evil is called good, good is called evil. We are in unprecedented times, which, you keep referring, we got to get right with God, and I agree. But I want to circle back real quickly, because I know our time is short, into the Rungs of Disclosure book, because the whole UFO phenomenon is in my opinion the coming great deception. We haven't, and you'll notice before 1947, Roswell, 1945, we're getting onesie twosies, but nothing like this. The year I was born, 1950, there was one UFO sighted and reported in December of 1950, one UFO. Now there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of UFOs reported every day. And it's like this: the plane is taking off. The whole idea of UFO disclosure. And, the first rung, last time I was on the show, we talked about this. That very first rung on the ladder of disclosure is Commander David Fravor on the Tucker Carlson show. That's the first rung. That's when we're going somewhere. And the top rung is full-blown disclosure. For those of you who don't know, Commander David Fravor, former F-18 pilot, the best of the best of the best. That's who this guy is. Stand-up shooter. He has this conflict with this tic-tac shaped UFO over the Pacific Ocean decades ago now. And this thing, when it comes at him and shoots away like a bullet out of a gun. And on the Tucker Carlson show, when they asked him, Commander David Fravor, in your opinion, what was this? He looked right at the camera and said, whatever this was not from this earth. So it's like, what do we do with a statement like that? Yeah. This isn't Coast to Coast with George Norrie and, the late Dr. Roger Lear or L.A. Marzulli or anybody else on Coast to Coast. This is Commander David Fravor, F-18 pilot, and they're showing the tic-tac shaped object, blah, blah, blah. That's the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. Since then, we have moved up to the point where one of the last chapters in the book is Commander David Grush, who states on the record that we have non-biological bodies, they're non-human biologics in our possession from these pilots who have crashed the craft. Non-human biologics. In the halls of Congress, the guy's under oath. He's not making this stuff up. So, we're going up the rungs of disclosure. This changes everything. Can I show you another video? I want to show you this one. Let me get in here. Hold on. I think you'll find this one really interesting. There we go. Yeah, there it is right here. And not keynote. Okay, not that. Ay. Can you see that?
I can see that. We go up, they come down.
Right.
2024, kid in front of a TV.
You see a kid in front of a TV.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Saucers are nothing new. These are routine sightings, not isolated events. Are you seeing that? It's spinning. There's a whole swarm of them. Oh my God. They're all against the wind. All against the wind.
An historic hearing today on Capitol Hill and an unprecedented bipartisan push for UFO transparency.
I told you to take Broadway. This always happens.
That ad is a Super Bowl ad,
Yeah,
2024. That's a minute and 30 seconds. Millions of dollars for that ad, millions of dollars in production to create that ad.
Scorsese.
Yeah, Scorsese. And then the last 5 seconds, a website makes it real Squarespace. Seriously? Tommy, in my opinion, that's predictive programming.
Uh,
And you'll notice that everybody is glued to this stupid thing like this. Meanwhile, above, overhead, mile wide craft, did you see the size of the craft? They're huge, absolutely huge. This is the coming great deception. It's the final rung on the ladder of disclosure. When they show up, they will say this: we created all life on this planet. We started the world's religions. We started the world's civilizations. Now, at this very critical juncture in human history, we are back to usher mankind into a golden age. This is exactly where we are, and they're signaling it. They're already signaling it. It's in the Super Bowl. I'm not making this up, and you'll notice it's a global event
mhm.
because it's in Texas, New
Yeah.
York City,
France.
Paris, France, and Japan. What they can't do every city on the planet. So it's filming and they're showing you that this is a global event, and it is a global event. Mile wide, and I've been saying this for decades. This changes everything, and I think we're close to it.
And I know we gotta wrap it up. I was gonna say, no, I think the way you describe it perfectly is Fravor going on Rogan, the Tic Tac Nimitz. That's the first rung, right? It is moving upwards, and
Upwards we go.
again, it's there's no doesn't say anywhere that disclosure has to happen like that. If you look back at something, you'd say, well, what would a slow roll look like? When did he go on Rogan? Like 2019, 2020, maybe before that, 2018. It's been six. This is a slow roll, and it's you pull it out, you drop it in, and then you let it simmer for a little bit. You go into Congress and go there. You he goes, oh wow, and then you let it keep going, and that is, I mean, as far as it would go, if you wanted to like not, implode the global psyche, that is how you would do it, and it's just keep tiptoeing up, but it is. UFOs are like the holy grail of conspiracy heads, and it's always been denied. It's always like, don't
Always.
even. And now it's just slowly, just random leaks. No, it's like in the Senate from the Air Force. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, man, that's, they didn't do that out of like goodwill. Maybe we should tell the people. There's a reason they're letting you know
Yeah. There
why
is.
this is happening. There's a reason why they're showing you this. They're not the military industrial complex. It didn't just have a change of heart. They didn't just take a weed brownie and have a change of consciousness. The same ones that truly turn human beings into hamburger meat for profit. They're not doing this because, hey guys, you want some technology? No, no, no. This is the opening to something.
Yeah, it
And
is.
it's not
Absolutely.
good. It is not good.
No, it's not good. This will usher in. The Bible speaks of a one world government, a one world religious system. And when people read that a couple hundred years ago or 500 years ago, they would go, "That's never going to happen." John the Revelator must be all allegory. But the Book of Revelation says very specifically, one world government, one world religious system. And you go back 2,000 years ago, no one's thinking about a one world government. Are you kidding me? Now one world government, one world religious system. And that begs the question, how do you do it? The neo-Darwinists, and I write about this in the book, the neo-Darwinists realized the fallacy of a Darwinian theory in the sense that because we now know the DNA molecular structure is the building blocks of all life on this planet. We know that now. When Darwin created his thesis, he didn't know anything about DNA. It wasn't discovered until over 100 years later, Watson and Crick. And so they discover this thing and they realize that this is really complex. I mean, this thing is really complex, and it just didn't happen by itself. There's got to be some creator. But the neo-Darwinists look at the Judeo-Christian God and go, nope, we're not going there. So they're looking to panspermia. They're ready to embrace the so-called extraterrestrial. They believe, and Ancient Aliens promulgates this with all due respect to them, every Friday night. I was on the first 2 seasons, and they've been promulgating this forever, that we were seated here by a race of extraterrestrials. And they show all this evidence, and I agree, the evidence is there, but there's another paradigm, and that's instead of extraterrestrial, these are the fallen angelic hosts of heaven, the Elohim, which by the way just means spiritual entity. That's all it means, and people go down that rabbit trail, so I want to clear that up. But when you go to places like Teotihuacan, Mexico, or Gilgal Raphaim, or Menga, Spain, or the dolmens that we see in Portugal, or Stonehenge in America, Stonehenge in New Hampshire, or Sacsayhuaman in Peru. Something's going on here. There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. It begs the question, how do you amalgamate all these different people with different religions, different ethnicities, the whole deal? They show up, everything changes. And it changes just like that. Just like the film, all of a sudden, everybody's looking up. And you notice the woman who was, with the iPhone, with the goofy cat, and she's happy now because she's laughing. She's like, her face is full with awe and wonder. Awe and wonder. She's like looking up almost reverently, like she's having some sort of a quasi-religious experience. Look, I'm not making this up. I've been doing this for decades. That's why I think this book might be the most important book I've ever penned, because it really gets into what we're looking at. lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. We're all sold out, by the way, first printing. We have books available, but we're also in our second printing, which we're really proud of. And I want to tip my hat to Charisma. Also give AJ a shout out here and others for allowing us to do this. And Tommy, thanks for having me on. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Dude, thank you for coming on. Yeah, guys, please go in the description. Please go follow him, get the book, all that good stuff. Dude, thank you for your time. That was a fun talk, and I'd love to have you in again sometime.
Love to, Tommy. God bless you, sir. Take
All right,
care.
brother. God bless us all. Guys, thank you so much.